Hello and welcome to The Top Story, a podcast with the headlines of the day from our correspondents around the world. I'm Qi. Coming up in this edition, leaders from Southeast Asian nations have gathered in Malaysia for a summit and adopted a document to guide the group for the next 20 years. Gaza rescuers say Israeli strikes have killed 52 people, including 33 in a school. And more than a dozen African countries have confirmed Mpox outbreaks. We begin in Asia. Leaders from the Association of Southeast Asian Nations have adopted a document to guide the group for the next 20 years. Among the key decisions under the Kuala Lumpur Declaration is the ASEAN Community Vision 2045 and its accompanying strategic plans. ASEAN leaders met ahead of the summit with China and the Gulf Cooperation Council to debate ways to deal with the hefty tariffs the United States is threatening to impose. They say the risks highlight the group's need to deepen existing trade ties and explore new ones. Ryan Meltzer has more.
Malaysia's Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim welcomes his 8 counterparts, plus the Prime Minister of Timor-Leste, which hopes soon to become the bloc's 11th member. But minus Myanmar, whose military leadership has been barred from attending these meetings, much focus at this summit has been on the economic turmoil triggered by the US that could see ASEAN members slapped with hefty tariffs. To counter that, ASEAN is looking to strengthen its existing trade relationships, like the recently agreed upgrade of the ASEAN-China Free Trade Area.
So I think this is a very significant development in terms of economic cooperation between ASEAN and China, particularly during this global uncertainty. And I think this upgrade will provide enormous opportunities for companies and businesses to take advantage of doing business between the two sides.
ASEAN is also seeking new economic linkages to reduce reliance on the US and mitigate the impact of trade uncertainty. And the first ever ASEAN Gulf Cooperation Council China Summit is seen as a promising means toward that goal.
I strongly believe in the fortitude and staying power of ASEAN to withstand the headwinds and weather the storms of the challenges and uncertainties facing us. To be able for us together to convene the first ever ASEAN GCC China Summit, which demonstrates our reservoir of goodwill, empowering us to deepen and expand our partnership and to act with strategic clarity.
For China, this is another welcome means of fostering greater cooperation among the global South, something that seems all the more vital given the US's upending of the international trading order.
That is Ryan Meltzer reporting from Kuala Lumpur. Chinese Premier Li Qiang is in the Malaysian capital to attend the first summit with ASEAN and Gulf countries. Speaking at the summit, he pledged to deepen strategic alignment with ASEAN and the GCC on the basis of mutual respect and equal treatment. The Premier said he looks forward to the early completion of talks on the Free Trade Area Agreement between various parties and the Gulf Cooperation Council. He also said China is ready to work with the two regions under the Global Civilization Initiative. ASEAN is hoping to develop closer ties with GCC countries through the three-way meeting. The region is looking at China's cooperation with the GCC as a model. Trade between China and GCC countries exceeded $288 billion last year. All 6 members are Belt and Road partners. Abd al-Marouki has more.
Besides the nearly $300 billion trade registered in 2024 between China and the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, Beijing is helping all 6 member states with their economic diversification visions. In Saudi Arabia, one of the most engaging fields is energy, where China Energy Engineering Corporation is powering up the kingdom and turning it into an innovative energy hub.
We have just closed a deal with a local partner to set up the manufacturing facility here in Riyadh to produce high voltage reactors, which is definitely in line with Saudi Vision 2030, and to promote and facilitate the industrial system. In the coming Q2 or Q3 this year, we would like to set up China Energy Engineering Group, our Middle East Clean Energy Research Institute here in Riyadh.
Since 2012, the company jumped from investments of $200 million to $10 billion. With more than 5,000 local employees, the company is producing up to 20% of Saudi's electricity. The fruits of the business partnership with China is evident across all 6 GCC nations.
Oman is the first Arab country on the Maritime Belt and Road Initiative. China has been recently intensifying its cooperation with this country to help it succeed in its mission to release its economy from reliance on oil revenues.
The town of Duqm in Oman is a witness to that developmental vision alignment between the two countries. There, a massive industrial park has been established over nearly 12 square kilometers.
During the first stage of development, we are focusing on light and medium industries. In our strategic project with China, we are working on alternative and renewable energy and technologies for building electric vehicles. We are trying to increase our knowledge of these industries. We're also trying to capitalize on our raw material and minerals.
Oman is working to diversify its economy. This means increasing our production capacity in industries other than oil and gas, in sectors such as food processing. Our Chinese partners have several projects in these sectors in various parts of Oman. Overall, our visions for economic projects align, which gives Oman the power to achieve its goals, while China is able to utilize the strategic location and low taxes of Oman.
In recent years, the GCC partnership with China entered the advanced technology sector. 5 of the 6 Gulf countries have begun projects that see space technology adopted and developed locally. That includes joint missions to build satellites, design rocket ships, and explore the far side of the moon.
That is Abdul Maruki on key projects in China-GCC cooperation. In China, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi is chairing a ministerial meeting with Pacific Island countries in eastern China this week. Officials from 11 island countries, along with the Deputy Secretary General of the Pacific Islands Forum, are attending in Xiamen. A delegation from Tonga arrived ahead of the meeting to visit a leading climate research hub in Shandong province. Li Shuang reports.
Ahead of this week's high-level meeting in Xiamen, Tonga's Crown Prince and Foreign Minister Tupotua Ulukalala paid a visit to the China-Pacific Island countries' Climate Change Cooperation Center in Shandong Province, putting a spotlight on one of the most urgent shared priorities, climate resilience.
For Tonga, climate change is our priority. Naturally, after that, we also look for our human security, so the ability for our people to stay resilient to it, and education plays a central part in that for us in Tonga.
China's collaboration with Pacific Island nations, including through technical assistance, research, and green development, has become a cornerstone of its broader Pacific engagement.
We have held 4 climate change training sessions for Pacific Island countries, covering nearly all nations in the region. We have also donated small-scale power generation equipment to island countries and established a climate change-focused academic program for students from the Pacific Islands.
I think the Liaocheng University sets a great precedent by educating our young people, also giving the opportunities for them to grow in their fields.
This week's ministerial talks in Xiamen, attended by ministers and senior officials from 11 Pacific Island countries, including Tonga, mark the first in-person session held in China. The agenda covers regional cooperation, economic recovery, and climate adaptation.
Well, it'll be my first time to meet Foreign Minister Wang Yi, so I'm looking forward to that, and also to strengthen our China and Tonga relationship.
As Pacific nations face rising tides, China is positioning itself as a reliable partner, offering science, solidarity, and shared solutions.
That was Li Shuang on China's support for Pacific Island countries. Turning to the Middle East, Israeli strikes have killed at least 52 people, including 33 in a school-turned shelter in Gaza City. Israel's military confirmed it targeted the school, saying the building was being used as a center by Hamas. The Israeli military has also issued an evacuation warning for the city of Khan Yunis. Rami Al-Magari reports from Gaza.
From Gaza, the southern area of Khan Yunis, which is a whole district, including towns and villages, mainly the eastern ones, Abasan, Bani Suhaila, Abasan al-Kabira, Khuza'a. These are the eastern parts of the Khan Yunis district in south of the territory. The order states clearly that the people should evacuate immediately and that the area will be under Israeli operations, army operations, except the areas around the hospital of Nasser and Al-Amal Hospital in the Khan Yunis district. This is asking or ordering the population to go to the west of the city, mainly Al-Mawasi area. This is a further Israeli action, and it has already, the Israeli army has already ordered the people to evacuate. Now they are further evacuating or ordering evacuation of this population to the west of Mawasi, where the people, thousands of families have already fled the Israeli military operations over there, given the Israeli army's orders of evacuation for these people, with Israel continuing its operations unabated, whether the airstrikes or the bombardments.
That was Rami Al-Magari reporting. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has said Israel's actions can no longer be justified. Other European leaders have also voiced their criticism of Israel's actions. The Swedish Prime Minister said Stockholm will summon the Israeli ambassador over Israel's refusal to allow aid into Gaza. The Norwegian Foreign Minister has called for a two-state solution to end the conflict. And finally, in Africa, more than a dozen African countries have confirmed Mpox outbreaks. Many are battling the virus under a vaccine shortage. Testing kits and hospital beds are also lacking. Officials at the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention say Sierra Leone has seen an exponential rise in infections. Eric Kawa has more on the situation.
This is just one of the over 1,600 Sierra Leoneans who have recovered from Mpox. For purposes of this report, we'll call him Alex. He got infected while on duty, but he sought treatment immediately. After 2 weeks under medical care, Alex is now fully recovered from the disease.
And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy because I have seen different videos of how Mpox attacks and targets people. So I was down mentally and physically too. I wasn't okay because I recalled that I have a wife at home, though she can abstain. But I also have a young child who is 10 months old.
Mpox presents symptoms like fever, body aches and a rash. Alex is encouraging Sierra Leoneans to seek medical assistance as soon as they develop signs of infection.
I call on everyone to adhere to the precautionary measures the government has put in place because Mpox is real. Yes, for now, we notice that the death rates are low. And people have the perception that Mpox doesn't kill, meaning it isn't bad. But after having gone through the virus, I know what I went through.
Health officials say the lessons learned from a serious Ebola outbreak in Sierra Leone and COVID-19 pandemic have helped them tackle the current Mpox outbreak more effectively and establish isolation centers in all districts across the country. The government is now focusing on vaccinating those facing a high risk of getting infected.
8.5 million people in this country, and we have 58,300 doses. So definitely, we have to prioritize. 1, health workers who are in the front line, contacts of infected persons, because if somebody is infected now, all those around that person are high-risk contacts. So we encourage those to be vaccinated, and those that have other underlying ailments, like people that are immune to compromise. So these are actually the priority groups. So if we get more vaccines, we might even review those criteria.
People across Sierra Leone have been urged to avoid close contact with infected persons, practice good hygiene, and follow safety guidelines to prevent further spread of the disease. As Sierra Leone continues the battle in the Mpox virus in a series of public health challenges, communities, caregivers, and the government are racing to respond, drawing on lessons learned from the past and hope for the future.
That was Eric Kawa on Sierra Leone fighting Mpox. Now, recapping the headlines before we go, leaders from Southeast Asian nations have gathered in Malaysia for a summit and adopted a document to guide the group for the next 20 years. Gaza rescuers say Israeli strikes have killed 52 people, including 33 in a school. And more than a dozen African countries have confirmed Mpox outbreaks. And that's it for this edition of The Top Story, a podcast that brings you world headlines every weekday. For more news in politics, business, sports and culture, you can subscribe to the Beijing Hour, a one-hour podcast news magazine program. We welcome and appreciate all ratings and reviews. I'm Qi Zhi. Thanks for listening.